Hello, everyone. It's Cheryl Millett here. It's Monday at 8, and because of my new job, sometimes I'm going to have to work to 5 or beyond, and then I'll just have to switch up the time. So maybe 8 is a good time. Is a better time? I don't know. But a lot of people actually watch this video after the fact anyway. So that is great, but I think one of the things I'll mention is there's a few things out there that really kind of come to light when you're hearing things being talked about, when people are actually talking about it or you're actually observing what they do. It's not the talking part, sorry, it's actually the actions. So there's one thing to talk about it, but there's another thing to do it. And observing this is kind of interesting because there's a saying that probably a lot of people know. And there's that saying, if you don't have your health, you have nothing. Now, you could say that a million ways, but if you have your health, you have everything. But there's that saying. But this people out there, for some reason, in many ways, it's being looked at as, yeah, sure. I won't maybe say it's taking it for granted, our health. We hear that too as well. What's before them is more important for the reasons it is, whether it's gaining more wealth, doing more things, rubbing shoulders with, certain people, looking like you've achieved all kinds of things. So there's all this, action and activity that's being done. But there is this other thing that I see with them going on, which is not so, there's like a health, I got a headache or, back problems or sleep issues. And for some reason, it's just the health is just there. It's almost, I'm not quite sure if they don't believe they can or they just don't think about it. But also I will say that in some of these cases too, having conversations is that they don't know any different. People don't really know what they don't know, like me and everybody here. We don't know what we don't know. And for some of us who you go on to read different things, you go on to have conversations, you go on to meet different people, and they bring up something, I had no idea. And then you go on to explore, and it's the snowballing effect where then you learn this and you learn that. We could probably pull in politics here as one of those things, or they talk about the deep state in the U.S. and there's these certain topics that I would say that kind of rolls like that. That if you were in your just mainstream schooling and hanging out with friends, hanging out with family, doing all of those things, birthday parties, just the typical things I will remember as growing up as a kid. What was not really exposed to the Rockefellers or the Illuminati or some of this language, Kennedy assassination, anything like that might expose things for what they are. And even that's a distraction away from our own health and happiness, to tell you the truth. And many of those things don't really touch a lot of the people or a lot of us anyway. Yet they do impact us in some way, and we don't really know. This is the language we have to kind of take here into consideration, is when we're speaking to people, do we know? Because know is really firsthand experience, right? Firsthand. And I've heard many people speak, well, like they know. And when you ask them, where'd you get it from? Well, it was on the news, or a friend told me, or if If knowing is really only your firsthand experience, then the language is just that. I know whatever it is, cotton doesn't wick away the sweat like merino wool does, because wearing it, doing hiking or walking or whenever you would wear it, then that's my personal experience with it, still just my personal experience. Then most of what people talk to in a lot of ways or grow up with and conditioning and so forth is beliefs. We believe we're in danger, we believe, if we cross, so many things like beliefs. So then we can say, I believe. We can use different language, and it was something that some of the metaphysical teachings that I got from 8-9 years ago was one of the things in the 4-day retreat that actually was talked about, was how we actually communicate to each other, and therefore it was easier to understand where you're kind of coming from, and you could think about things differently and be able to share it that way. Hi Ira, hi Cindy. And so that's just language kind of that way. But back to merino wool. Merino wool is something that, I know it's kind of like, whew, not as heavy topic, right? Merino wool is very healthy, and I was walking with a neighbor and we were talking about wool. So now I'm just going to jump into wool. Wool has been around for a very long time. Wool, sheep, and what I was saying to him is that it's antimicrobial, and wool you'll quite often find in the dampest of places, let's say cottages. And that's because it gets damp, yes, there, and the wool doesn't hold on to the moisture. So there's this breathing, but actually against our body, it's very warm. It's holding in the heat, but not the moisture. Therefore, it is antimicrobial or anti-mold, those kind of things. So the merino wool, there's 100% merino wool and there's others, but it's very, very healthy even to get the socks for anybody who has anything going on with their feet, because we're wearing these shoes and our feet don't get to breathe as much as they need to, and that is very important to get the merino wool if we have a lot of this sweat. Now I'm going to jump into detoxifying, because with the body not just being an athlete or sweating that way, but the body is actually detoxifying through our skin all the time. Even if it isn't sweat, it will be detoxifying, and this process is very healthy. It's an elimination organ. The skin is very, very healthy. So what we put next to our skin, what do we put on our body, how we do that is very important. And because merino wool exists, there's very fine, there's lightweight and then there's heavyweight. Heavyweight, more cold winter kind of weather like Mount Everest, and then the lightweight would be more like Ireland, where it's damp and things like that. But these wool sweaters that we've always are thought of as wool, very itchy for a lot of people. But the merino wool is a different wool, and it's very soft, like cashmere. Seems very soft, and you still don't want to put it in the dryer. I mean, if you wanted to shrink a little bit, you can put it in the dryer. But for some people who are in that place of sweating, or even if you're detoxifying more than the average person, I'm thinking people are going through chemo treatment, cancer treatment, because that's a poison, and the body really needs to be at its best for eliminating, and the merino wool would be ideal for that. Anybody on a lot of medications would want to make sure that their elimination channels are working very well. Water hydration would be key, but also frequent rinse-offs in the shower, those kind of thing on a daily basis would be helpful as well. So I bring up merino wool for those few reasons. One is antimicrobial, so it is great to have next to the skin because it's a natural fiber, right? Wool as well, and it would allow for the detoxifying, the moisture not to be there, but they call it wicking, if I got it right, and therefore taking the moisture away from the body and keeping you dry and keeping you warm. So wool clothing, yes, they also had, because I went to a sale, that's why I'm kind of bringing it up. They had socks, they had underwear, they had long johns, they had all the different layers possible that you can think of. The undershirts, the small, t-shirts, the long sleeve t-shirts, the bulkier tops, the lighter jackets, the more heavy jackets, all the underwear. It was very, very much an outdoors group that was there that was buying the merino wool. But I want to bring it into indoors, which is a lot of people who kind of sweat, and we're thinking even the body odor that comes with that, and other such things with the feet, particularly the feet, the fungal thing. It would be very, very good for merino wool. So the one name that's top of mind, and I'll put it down below, is Icebreaker, but you'll probably see more products. There definitely are more. I think something, because I got some hats. It was smart something. But I'll kind of put it down. But merino wool, I'll put it down below after finishing the video so you can have a look at it. But that's just something to keep in your, what would we say, bonnet. Keep in your bonnet, wool, and how important wool is. Just to kind of step in, a few years ago, a good friend of mine, it was probably a handful of years ago, started selling wool felt boots and wool felt shoes. And that's where I really got a good sense for the wool on the body, not just the wool blankets or wool sweaters, but that in the winter time, be it Russia, the Scandinavian countries, the cold climates, they did a lot of things with wool to make the felted boots. No socks, you don't need any socks. In the middle of winter and cold, you could wear them. I've done it here in the middle of winter, just worn my either the boots or even just the shoes out barefoot. And you can feel when you go out a little bit of the cool kind of coming in. So just to sense that there was a flow of air, but then after that moment, it was only a moment, then it seems warm, very warm to your feet and healthy. I mean, again, breathing, right? Lots of breathing there. What I wanted to also speak about too, so that's the wool felt. Any questions, put down below, but basically just kind of bringing up things you can further explore and learn about. The idea is, my daughter had to do a project, and she comes to me, and she'd been looking in the kitchen for some products with palm oil. And palm oil is one of those things that is being used more. If I'll kind of step it back a bit here. Margarine was something that we had for decades. And it was cheaper, yes. And they touted it as far in the food guide and things like that. Now, margarine is hydrogenated vegetable oil. But for those people who don't know this, that was banned here in Canada years ago. So there's a ban with having, hydrogenated vegetable oil. Not good for your health, gums up the cells basically, and not very good for that way. And palm oil is something they've been adding to the vegetable oil to make it our vegetable spread that we have now versus the margarine, palm oil. But palm oil is still a highly processed food, like the vegetable oils. It doesn't need to be hydrogenated, but it's still highly processed. And when I say highly processed, let me describe to you what I mean by processed in this case. Because in some ways we process our dinner when we get all the food together and we cook it here and do different things with it and we put it on our plate. You can call that a process, doing recipes. But let's think of this as food processing, where they take the palm oil or they take the canola seeds or they take any seeds and they need to extract the oil. So when we're eating the seeds, we don't find them very oily at all. We don't. So they have to get out. There's a bit of oil there, of course. They have to get out the oil out of these seeds. So what they do in the refining of it, so I'll just say refining, it's refined, bleached, and deodorized. Refined means high heat. So anything, especially oils, it softens up the food. It allows for extraction. Water, oil don't mix. So that's very helpful when you're heating, because there's different weights and they'll separate. So there's high heat used. Because of the heat used, think of it no differently than you put some butter or any oil in a pan, you've got it heated, and it starts to turn color, starts to turn brown, starts to turn, well, you could burn it. But so in the process of these oil refineries, it turns color, and then that's where it comes in, the RBDB, bleaching. So they use chemicals to bleach the oil, because I don't think we would buy a jug of oil that has any browning, kind of any icky color. They already know that grayish, whatever it is. Then the third, although there's other steps kind of involved here too as well, but the third one is deodorized, because when you cook things, there's actually a smell that comes, an odor. And I'm going to go into that, remind me to go actually talk about the smell of food when it's heated. So they deodorize it, and again with chemicals. And they're extracting everything that's not oil over there. So it's kind of like waste product, and having the oil run over here, and then doing the heating, the bleaching and the deodorizing of the oil. And then it ends up in a big jug and it goes in your cupboard. So back to the palm oil scenario, my daughter has to do a presentation, and she has to find palm oil products and then talk to how we're going to change it up, because we have palm oil, because palm oil is an issue in the East where they are tearing down precious land, trees, orangutans, all the things that you kind of hear, I've heard. So palm oil plantations, I guess we can call them, are causing a little bit of havoc over there, which is why some of us kind of avoid that part. So I do avoid it. So my poor daughter was pulling her hair out because she couldn't find any palm oil in the house. And she goes, I can't tell the kids we don't have any palm oil, Mom. The whole thing is. And she really, really thought that the kids would think that she might be better than them because she doesn't have any palm oil. And she wasn't comfortable enough to stand up and explain that, my mother's in the nutrition field, so she knows, and then she picks and whatever. So that's okay. We had a conversation at the dinner table. I asked her how her presentation went last Wednesday. And then I asked her, I said, did you have to fudge it? And she did. She took pictures of certain things and said there was palm oil in it. Anyway, palm oils in general are so important for our body. It is part of the whole food. Our skin would be dry like cardboard if we did not have oils in our skin. And when we don't have enough oils in our skin, then you do get the dryness. And there may be different reasons for that. But the idea is to get on the boat with healthier oils, little steps. Not canola oil, not any of the vegetable oils that have been processed. The unfortunate thing is they don't put RBD on the packaging label. They'll just say canola/soybean oil, or sunflower oil, or soybean oil. They'll just say that. And if it's organic, inorganic, it doesn't really matter. Still go through the refining process, unless it says cold pressed. But we already know that cold pressed oils, can be heated through the process of cold pressing it, because it's almost like you can imagine a spiral like this. You've got some product in here and you've got it in here, and you've got a press coming in, pressing. Depending on how fast that is moving, it will create heat, it will create friction, it will create energy, heat, and that will actually denature the oil. So this is the big thing around olive oil that came out. Is it really cold pressed? Because the definitions around things, we've got to ask the question, is cold pressed means they don't have things electrically, like there's heating. I don't know what the definition is, but they'll find ways around it. And that's what we don't get to see on the label. So the ideal with fats is, never mind the skin as the organ, the main organ. Of course, we were talking about the merino wool and it breathing and being anti-fungal, is the mere fact that our brain, now this is my favorite topic, the brain runs the body. And it's mostly fat. Sure, there's water in there, but when we're talking about nerve cells, it's very high, very dependent upon, as every membrane, every cell in our body is dependent upon healthy fats. Every cell. So never mind the brain, the nervous system, it's highly fat, but our lungs, highly fatty tissue, our breast tissue, which I will interject here now, that there's been many doctors that have said that the one reason or the cause for breast cancer is the imbalance of healthy fats and unhealthy fats, the imbalance of omega-6 to omega-3, which are important fats. They call them essential, but their key role of fats, that's the thing about fats, is they have a variety of fats. They're not all created the same, like we think of proteins. Not at all. They are almost like the specialists, specializing in what they do and offer to our body. So fats is definitely my topic. I could talk about that forever. But I always joke, people call people fatheads, or that's a compliment. You want to have lots of fat in the brain, and even more so today with all the medicines that people are on, Alzheimer's, dementia, how alcohol and caffeine affect the brain and destroy tissue, but destroy cells within our brain. Yeah, so alcohol, drugs, caffeine, smoking, toxins in general. They may be more concentrated toxins, but toxins in general can get in there and destroy the cells. So if you have unhealthy fats coming in, if that's mostly what you're consuming, then you're going to turn over your cells, because we're one big cell regeneration machine. You're going to turn over cells that are just not as healthy, which is why if we take the path of getting healthier and incorporate these wonderful healthy habits and healthy food, healthy thoughts, then people can actually look younger, 5 years younger, 10 years younger. And I like to say 20 years younger. You really could if you believe that. But then that would be a huge dent in the anti-aging business out there. And who am I to want to burst the bubble that health comes from inside out, inside head, which causes most of your stress, and what you put into your body and how that moves from the digestive system outward to turn over and create new healthy cells, hopefully healthy, but new cells, whether you put in this or that in your body, is going to be new cells. Are they healthy or not? That's another question. But healing really comes with providing your body the tools and the lifestyle to create new healthy cells. And it just takes time. There's no magic bullet here. So depending on what's going on, depending on how long it's been going on, things can happen quicker than you think, but sometimes people can't move as quickly, because then it's you get all these detoxification side effects. And I don't want to call them side effects, but they are uncomfortable, uncomfortable. So we can surely detoxify, as I did. I was able to on Friday and Saturday do a day and a half of it's like herbs and cleansing and stuff, but lose a couple of pounds, but my energy came, and I'm completely off of grains right now. Completely off of grains. And I feel much better when I'm not consuming grains, even though I don't have any allergies at all. None. I did want to bring up, hello everyone. I did want to bring up about cooked food here, because I did talk about the oils being cooked. It just popped into my head here. And when we cook our food, we actually bring on the flavor. And you know this to be true. If you roast nuts, the flavor of the nuts it changes. Raw nuts are kind of bland, and it changes it. And that's actually a denaturing or an oxidation kind of process. To what degree, to how long you do it is going to be that. But that's where the flavor comes out. Now, the reason I say this is because I've been big time in raw food. Now, I thought I was going to go raw food vegan a decade ago. No, it's got to be more than that. 15 years ago. But I didn't stay on the fence. What I did is just became the observer, and would immerse myself and hung out with people, raw food, and listened to them. But even at that time, I was taking the raw seal oil, and I wasn't willing to give that up. And that's raw food. When I tasted, over the years, I had not had seal meat. So for those who know, I have been, educating on, selling, distributing, around the world on seal oil, mammalian omegas. And I didn't give it up because I knew I didn't have to give it up. I'm not one of those people that has to fall into a group or a way of eating. But the idea is I started eating, going back, my father did eat raw eggs. And it's such a clean taste. Like the egg, and then you cook it, and it's such a clean taste when you have it raw. Then I had, and I'm talking about the seal now, I'd been looking for seal meat for a long time. I had heard that it tastes disgusting. And this all came about just over a year ago, when I found out that there was a restaurant here in Toronto that was run by a native who could bring in legally the seal meat. It has something to do, like the provinces are all different, and so I don't know where the freedom comes in, because they just can't ship seal meat here. There's rules and regulations about that. But I was at the restaurant, and it was amazing. They actually had raw seal meat. So there was an appetizer that had the raw seal meat seared. So just like those who like raw, their steak rare, tartare or something. So it was just slightly seared. And I tasted the raw meat. No taste whatsoever. Very clean, very simple. I'm not going into the texture. Texture doesn't bother me. The seared seal meat, though, however, tasted like liver. So I can see the amount of people out there that, how many people, anybody here like liver? Liver has got a very strong taste to it. Why? That's a very fatty organ in our body, the liver. It contains all kinds of nutrients and fats, and so it in itself being cooked would have a much stronger flavor than the steak. Now in this case it was seal meat, but if you've ever seen seal meat, it's dark, very dark, just like liver. It's different, the meat, than the liver. The liver is the liver from in one way for texture and how it's very smooth, and it's almost like there's no space in the liver. It's dense. But that's what I would say about when we cook our food, and why some people are so adamant, the raw food is, they're so adamant about not cooking their food, is because of the denaturing aspect, the oxidation aspect of it. But there's another thing that's very important to understand about raw food. Raw mammalian is much easier to digest, but the raw foods, the vegetables and the fruits, not so much. They're very high in fiber, very fibrous, and they have to be chewed, broken down. They have to be, they do. They just have to, which is why if your digestive system isn't working well, I'm not even sure if a raw food diet is really the way to go initially, to tell you the truth, especially on like vegan, to tell you the truth. But anyway, we could talk about this, a whole book, just what I've just talked about, the fats and the cooking and the oxidation and the different fats and what they do in our body is very important. The cancer, the balances omega-6, omega-3, and how that may very well be the key reason for all disease. See, the crux of it is, and I think it was 600 peer-reviewed studies regarding all of this imbalance of omega-6, omega-3. See, omega-6 is not bad for us, and it does cause inflammation, but it can be the good inflammation, whereas your immune system getting up an action on the toxins coming in. Omega-3 would do the opposite. It would bring down inflammation, but you do not want to have these out of balance. You don't even want to focus on just having omega-3 in your diet. Most of that's going to be denatured fish oils, oxidize very quickly. Seeds, well, you better be able to convert it to what our brain would use, what our membranes would prefer. So there's got to be a level of conversion. So they have to be in balance. They work together. And this is so key. And these 600 peer-reviewed studies is basically saying they feel that the reason for all diseases, including ADHD, all diseases, because there's an inflammatory component in all diseases, is to do with this imbalance of omega-6 and omega-3. Now, that's a kind of a simple blanket kind of statement I'm putting out there. There's definitely more to it, but you can see where I'm going at. These essential fats, actually, especially omega-3, is like an oxygen magnet. So if oxygen can cause issues like rusting and stuff, and then it can be very, very helpful. It's got this double-edged sword going on. Then we want to understand how our body uses these vital nutrients, but we need both. But really, what we really need is healthy omega-6 in balance with healthy omega-3. And this is where we're kind of, a lot of people, we can't manage your inflammation, but there's more to it than that. The root cause of disease is not inflammation, ladies and gentlemen. It is not inflammation. I would say that to the doctors of 10 PhDs or 10 degrees, any practitioner. Even I've said to people practitioners, even alternative holistic, who have said and have created whole conferences on, inflammation as the root cause of disease. It isn't the root cause of disease. It's just not. And that's a whole other topic to go into because of the stages and how the body works. But I'm just going to leave it as that. So at least you understand that inflammation, we do want to bring down inflammation, but we want to bring down inflammation in a way that's going to serve our body. So if the root cause isn't inflammation, then what is? And that's what we want to get at. It's no different than somebody having lower back issues and they keep going into the doctor and whatever, acupuncture, heat, massage, doing all of that, but the next month have the back. Not finding out or asking, what is the root cause? What am I doing? Is it posture? Because many people, the way they sit and they stand and stuff is not sitting, standing. So we need to get to the root cause. And that is going to be unique to everybody, but there is some very core things to understand about it. And this is really what I wrote my whole book on, which is after I get on this, I've got to finish the Grammarly. If anybody's ever used Grammarly, you'll know how helpful it is. a few things I would say differently because it's kind of basing it on the American, and there's probably somewhere I can change that. But the end of the day, it's been very, very helpful. So if you've seen all those commercials on Grammarly, well, there's something to it. And I'm just taking my book through it, and I'm actually catching a few things. But I just wanted to see if anybody had any questions at all on fat, any questions at all on wool. And I will put the name of merino wool. Actually, I think I can put it here. That's right. That's cool. So yeah, any questions at all? Merino wool. So if you kind of missed that piece in the earlier on, merino wool is a nice soft wool, and there's lots of benefits. You can go back and actually listen to that part of it. What else was I going to talk about? Oh yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention probably every time here. Here's the solution to climate, whatever, cooling, warming, whatever it is. Plant trees. Just let's plant lots of trees. By planting trees, plants, various things, it will actually help the ocean. The ocean is where we get a lot of our oxygen from as well. And all in all, the way it kind of all the ecosystem works, we can't really go plant seaweed and algae. It just won't. That isn't possible. But trees we can, and there's actually a help there. So I would say all we need to focus on, instead of getting in up to or wherever in arguments and taking sides and thinking we have to do everything and anything or spend it whatever thousands of dollars more just to be eco-friendly, plant trees. That's how I would say. Of course, less stuff is good. Managing your heat, taking not as long showers, using less hot. Yeah, you can do all of that too. I mean, that's not going to be a bad thing. I think we've been on that train for a very long time. Composting has been helpful. All those various little things, but definitely wanted to kind of bring that up as well. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to get back to editing my book. I always welcome questions, even if you have questions a little bit later. I just post them here because I'll get them, and I answer them after the fact too as well. I want to thank everybody for coming on. Thank you, and best of health until next Monday. And if I do have to work late at my other job, I say I have 2 jobs now, then it will probably be at 8 o'clock rather than 5. But if I get the opportunity, I'll come on at 5. I prefer that myself too. And then you can enjoy your evenings. But all these videos they go on YouTube. I've been I think I'm behind a couple of weeks, but they will eventually go up there. And there's the last almost 2 years of Live at 5s on there anyway. Other than that, yeah, ask questions, post information, that's fine too, and we'll see what we come on with next week on Monday. Until then, best of health, everyone. Thanks for coming on board. Take care. Bye for now.